Okay. I just wanted to get that started because I wanted to say this
Yeah, okay.
on the
Yeah.
record because you're actually my first guest since I started this podcast. So I really don't have like a platform that I use to do, these interviews. So that's why it's like, whoo, cringing a little bit. But yeah, you're actually my first. Like the others in the past, a couple of years ago, it didn't work out. So you, on the other hand, you came through. So that right there has been it's been working out like that. It's been tremendous. I ain't even gonna lie. So yeah,
Yeah, right.
I really don't even use Zoom. I used Zoom previously, like when I did other podcasts, but I'm usually just an audio guy, and I
Got
wanted to
it.
take this
Got it.
opportunity to do Zoom again. So
Got it. So are we recording video and audio on this podcast?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, sweet. And small technical detail. Do you have a lamp or anything you could turn on your desk at
Oh, I'm
all?
sorry. Let me turn that on.
There we go. No worries.
Yeah,
Because
I didn't mean
I'm,
I. The light's gonna flicker a little bit, so if it does, I
yeah,
apologize about that.
yeah,
So
yeah. No worries. And I'm interested. So what's it been like for you this morning, mate, knowing that you had this on and you had your first guest? What's been going on inside?
oh man, being honest, a little anxiety, like anxious, excited, all of that. And this is the first time doing this, like actually talking with somebody about this. I didn't realize that um I was actually reaching out. I didn't even realize it. And when I seen that you had emailed me, I said, "Oh man, I've been missing these emails, and I ain't been. Oh man, because I was giving up at that point. I really was. I was giving up, and I phone. I was like, let me check some of these emails and see if I'm chatting somebody or something. And here you
Mhm.
came. You was the first email that popped up. I said, wow. And then a couple of more started strangling in, started, sending emails. So yeah, it's been a blast now. It's actually coming through. I didn't think I was actually reaching out to people. I'm excited
Well,
about it. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
well done. Well done for turning up
Hey,
because a lot of people they think about these sorts of things, but they don't actually do it.
sure.
And I'm just taking a minute to acknowledge you as one man to another. You're
Mhm.
taking action. Imperfect actions beats the shit out of, perfect inaction, you know.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I acknowledge you for moving this forward. And regardless of how good, bad, perfect this show is.
Yes.
I'm hoping you get the sense that this is you having a life that's in line with your intentions.
Yeah. 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 And firstly, it's like, this is just me. You know what I'm saying? When I'm doing this podcast, it's just me. Nobody else. It's just literally me. No guests, no nothing. And it's just me talking from the heart. And I'm just literally trying to just, get my experience out there or get my story out there or whatever's going on. Just get it out there. And I didn't realize I was going to actually have guests, man, but this is exciting.
Yeah. Ah, look,
Exciting.
and Darrell, I'm excited with you, and I want to give you a little blessing, if I may, because
Sure.
I can see you're a big, strong guy, and a lot of our nervous energy can be trapped in the body. Now,
Yes.
I'm quite happy to have a good conversation with you, but I'd love to when you say speaking to your heart. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the tension in our body that we think is normal, once it
Right.
goes away, all of a sudden our heart can speak more openly. You feel me?
I do.
So
I
I'm gonna
do.
show you a very, very easy way to completely
Okay.
relax your body in less than 3 breaths. Is that something that you want to kick off with?
Go for it.
All right, my man. Well, it's a real simple permission thing. Do you give permission to your own breath, Darrell, to make every cell in your physical body feel really, really good?
Yeah, if you want to put it like sure. Yeah. I mean, that
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Just giving
absolutely.
permission to our own breath to make every cell in our body feel really, really good. And this is going to be really, really simple. All we're going to do,
Okay.
Darrell, is
All right.
exhale and just shake our body as we exhale. Blow it out, blow it
Okay.
out, blow it out, blow it out. Out, 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 out. And
Okay.
when you're all the way out, mouth closed, breathe in through your nose and look at the ceiling. Breathe in more, breathe in more, breathe in more, breathe in more, breathe in more. Now hold it and wriggle your shoulders, wriggle your spine, open your chest, wriggle, 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 wriggle your whole body, wriggle, 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 wriggle. Now put your hand over your mouth and let out a really loud yawn. Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
oh, okay, man. That felt kind of
Just
great though.
let that energy go through your system. That's
Man, that
your
felt
energy.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that felt great. Yeah, that felt good.
And
That's a
that
good
was just
that's a
one.
good technique. That's a
And I'm
real
going to
good
show you how
technique.
to get even more from that. So you notice when you breathe in, then you breathe in more, more,
Hmm.
more. You sort of
Hmm.
access the top third. What we're going
Yeah.
to do now, Darrell, is when we breathe
Okay.
in, the joy I get is showing people how amazing their bodies are. You know, our bodies don't just carry our eyeballs around. There's a lot of things they do that I get joy from introducing them to. Because once you know this, you'll have this for the rest of your life. So a lot of people don't
Hmm.
know that in their two fingers and thumbs, they have a power button. Okay. When you pinch that really hard, you're going to access more of your top third breathing in. So this time when we blow out, we're going to breathe in and halfway through, we're going to pinch those power buttons together as we look
Okay.
up and notice how that extra inflates that top third. Cool, cool.
Okay. Let's do
All
it.
right. So with your power buttons ready, have them by your side. Blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, 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 out. And when you're all the way out, when you're all the way out, mouth closed, rapid inhale through the nose. Look up, hit those power buttons. Look up, lean back. Now hold it and then just wriggle, stretch, open your chest. Feel that chest opening up like your heart is opening up like a flower. Feel the sun coming in through your chest. And when you can't stop the yawn, cover your mouth and let out a really big yawn. Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Mm,
Ooh.
mm, mm.
Wow. Wow.
No need to rush it. Just stay with it. This is your sovereign energy.
Man. Yeah. Wow. That was great. Ooh. That was great. I felt it here too. I felt it. That was real. Wow. That just made a big difference from a few seconds ago. Literally. Ooh, thanks for that, man. That was great.
If only people knew the power inside their own skin.
Man, man, that was phenomenal. I feel it now.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level, man.
You look relaxed. You
I
got your
am. I'm
teeth going.
great.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I'm great.
and yeah. And you know what? We should every, 15 or 20 minutes, we should stop, take a deep breath, shake it off, and just continue the flow of the conversation. Because when our tension is out of the way of our hearts, our authenticity, we can share freely, flowing, like something's almost coming through us. And that's the kind
Absolutely.
of conversations I like having. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, you since you talked about that, I want to go in a little bit, you know, get to know you and what you are up to. What's your missions?
Sure. Okay. So when I'm not getting high in main supply, um,
Yes, sir.
um, I get so much joy from seeing people flourish.
Mm,
I like flourishing myself, but there
mm-hmm.
comes a point where it's like it's not enough for you to be okay. You've got to do what you can for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me, that um, awareness, I'm pretty stubborn. So I had to learn that when I was completely fatigued in Afghanistan.
Right.
where I didn't know what breath work was. I just knew that I was beyond fatigue.
Right.
And and it was like I only had 2 cents worth of energy left. But if I spent that 2 cents on my breath work, doing some deep breaths, focusing on like picturing my thumb and drawing light through my thumb. No one showed me to do this. I just did this instinctively.
Hmm.
I'd wake up and I'd have 20 cents worth of energy. And
Yeah.
then I invested the 20 cents. I got $2. And I realized energy is like money. How you invest, it's how you get it back. And then I sort of built myself up and I noticed that, okay, I could be having a good day, but if my team's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
even if I'm being completely selfish, who do I want around me when in a war zone?
Right.
Rested and connected people or people I don't give a crap about and they're fatigued and that impacts me. So Darrell, when I say I get joy from seeing people flourish, it was on the back of some very stubborn behavior.
Yeah.
I was very
Mm.
resistant and it was like I was led to the depths of everything to get rid of all my personal blockages so then I could connect to my truth and then um, be generous with others. And I think the healing path done right gets
Yeah.
you to the start line of you bringing your gifts into the world. And so when I say I get joy from people flourishing, everyone's got their contribution to the flourishing of others. And so
Absolutely.
for the last, 10 plus years, I've been working in the veteran space, first responder space, and I just noticed that if people aren't sleeping, they can have the best resources around them, but they're not taking any of it on.
No, no.
Um,
You're right about that. Yeah.
and so I just created these programs that the metric of success was how much it improved sleep. So, I never saw myself as a sleep work guy. I just saw just how powerful it was. And I'm like, well, if this button is getting us the returns we want, let's just keep hitting that button. Um, and I don't say that lightly because when I told a doctor I couldn't sleep, I lost 6 years of my life to pills, pharmaceutical addiction. I didn't know my own breath could self-regulate me better, make me feel better, be anti-inflammatory, bring healing to all my injuries. So, when I just discovered these really simple modalities that no one's talking about, possibly because they're free, right?
Right.
Yeah. By the
Right.
way, what I showed you earlier, you've got to send me $5 every time you breathe, right? Okay, you got that, right? So
I do.
yeah. So it's not like it's when you are introduced to something super powerful, it's something you've got for life, you
Right.
know. And so I do breath work because it's such an easily transferable skill to, most humans. And once they have that, then they've got access to that power. They don't need resales or anything like that. Um, but I hope that answered your question. Sometimes I tangent, so just pull me back on track if I'm not
Oh no,
answering your
you no, you're really on track. You're awesome. You're awesome. So since you said that, you say do you are you like the founder or CEO of Breathwork?
breathwork in bed. Yeah, breathwork in bed is my brand because
Hmm.
and there's 1,000 different breathwork techniques out there, but I specialize in breathwork to help turn your bed into a cloud and then turn it into a trampoline in the morning when you want to get out of bed. Because I've just noticed that
Oh,
two of the points I used to get stuck at trying to get to sleep. And then eventually, if you do get to sleep, getting out of bed, like, I mean, if I lost the first 5 minutes of the day, I've lost the day. So then I'm like, well,
right.
if I can win the first 5 minutes of the day, then surely that'll have the same effect. Um, but the thing is, when you're tired, you don't want to have to remember like six extra things to do. You
Oh
just
yeah.
want, I just want to Uber Eats in my sleep. I know I can cook, but look, I just want to push a button. So I thought, well, I don't like phones, but everyone's got one. So if I can create a button that people can press and have their lungs guided to turn their bed into a cloud or get them back to sleep at 2 a.m. And then in the morning, before your feet swing over the edge of the bed where you're feeling a bit stuck, then you've got a chance to put good stuff into your head at a push of a button.
Oh
Because
wow.
if I didn't have that easy access button push there, it seemed that the negative stuff in the veteran circles, they call them vultures on the bedhead. You got these negative vultures wanting to swoop into your head. And so if I didn't have that easy access to the positive stuff in that first, waking hours, the negative stuff would dive in there. And I'd, you know, lose the first 5 minutes
Wow.
of the day.
What was that turning point? Because I know that like sleep is like very, very important to everybody's lives, right? So, what was your turning point that you knew that regardless to all of the struggles that you're dealing with, that hey, I got to make this change? What was the turning point for you? What actually hit that struggle? Like I got to make this change.
That's really good question, Darrell, because
Mhm.
uh, it was in a worse war zone than Afghanistan. This was during my divorce.
Uh,
Um, I'd lost house, home, money, access to kids, sleeping on the couch in my parents' place. And at 2 a.m., things weren't working out.
mhm.
Uh, and the irony was, I knew, my head knew that breath work would downshift my overactive nervous system
Mhm.
and give me the peace that I'm looking for. But all that crap in my head had me locked into this state. And in that moment, Darrell, I realized that your mind's like a garden. Whatever you water grows. And
Yeah.
I was watering the weeds of stress. And when
Mhm.
you really water them, those weeds, they don't just take over the garden. In as I've observed, it's like eyeballs pop out of them and they become sentient. They become aware of the things that you do that feed them, and they become hyper aware of the things that you would do that would starve them. You've got like good stuff in your head that you want to feed, but they'll take the food that you want to give them. And what does this look like in real life? Okay, before you do exercise, there's a part of us that always goes, let's not do this now. Let's do this later. Can we put this off? Oh, look, here's a distraction. Because
Mhm.
that's the disempowered parts of you, knowing that if you become physically energized, if you become empowered, they get kicked out and they will scream the loudest before they die.
Right.
And so let's reorientate this. 2 a.m. My stress weeds were loving the fact that I was stressed. I knew what the
Cool.
right thing was to do, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember I got up and I was either going to do alcohol, pills, self harm. And I'm like, Tim, you can take one breath, take one fucking breath. And I drove this thumb into my chest. I went, and it was like the breath coming up from the bottom of the ocean. I'm like, this is working. Take two. I grabbed a second finger, drove it into my chest. Okay, this is working. Take three. So finger after finger, breath after breath, get to 10, get to 15. And then somewhere between breath 15 and breath 20, the chemical override happened. Those stress weeds got kicked out of my head, and the empowered parts of my brain woke up and said, Tim, thank goodness you kicked them out. This is working. Keep doing it.
Absolutely.
And I realized in that moment, it's not enough to know the right thing to do. You
Mhm.
need something, some sort of structure there to help you guide into it, especially when you need it the most, like at 2 a.m. when all the stress weeds are going, no, don't breathe. And so I started making these stupid recordings of my own voice saying, hey, Tim, breathe in, breathe out, but ancient army wisdom says if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. So
Yeah, that's not stupid
I,
shit at all, man.
yeah,
That's
well,
not.
I mean, it it really, really worked when it really, really was supposed to. And I started sending it to my mates. I'm like, yeah, Tim, this is actually working. I'm like, maybe, okay, I feel like I'm really onto something here. Um, and so, from that was the low point where I started seeing that regardless of what our own head is telling us,
Mhm.
if we can access our breath, which generally needs we need to access some guidance for our breath, then we can access our peace. We can access our power. We can downshift our overactive, cortisol driven, head into a deeper state of peace.
And that's a good insight when you talked about that, because when I'm stressed, I just stay busy. And that's not always the answer. It's not always, because the stress is going to stay regardless. So if you stay busy, if you go to the gym, you go work out, or you go for a run, or you just go to work, it's like the stress is still there. And regardless to you keeping busy, it's not helping you.
Yeah.
But breath, like, and you just like, I've never heard of that. It's like putting your breath into work and you're actually releasing a lot of that stress. And like you said, it kicked it right on out. And so that's that right there. That's a 1 point right there, man. I love that. That's incredible. Because me's just staying
Darrell,
busy. It's crazy.
uh, yeah, well, no, but what you're describing there, how many people do you think are feeling stressed, but they're staying busy? Give it a number.
Oh God. I'm think I'm going to give a big number here, and I might be over exaggerating when I say this. I'll probably say over 1 million.
Well, I would say the largest part of the Western world.
Man,
Okay.
yeah.
Because consider this. We buy more shit we don't need when we're in a state of fatigue.
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
We
So
don't
so
invest
our
it right.
yeah, our economy of I call it the economy of dysfunction. It loves
Yes.
it when we pour dopamine over dysfunction. I'm not feeling great, but I'll buy something or I'll do something to pour dopamine over my dysfunction. And there's nothing wrong with going for a run. There's nothing wrong with buying a
No.
car. But
Mm-mm.
if you're using that for you not to maintain the blockages that you have in your life, then there's only so long that's sustainable for. And what I understand about healing is that a healer doesn't deal with the symptoms of the problem,
Right.
okay? Because the problem is there's a blockage in us taking us out of our authentic alignment.
Yeah.
And once that blockage is removed, we naturally return back to our sovereignty. And some people call it a divine nature. The second fulfillment happens the second we see the divine nature inside, that we are whole, perfect, and complete. It is here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I love about breath work is it's a it's a mechanical override. And if I could speak to every element has a nature to it. Okay. And air
Right.
has a certain nature to it. So if you try and hold the air, you can't hold it. Air can't be held, right?
Correct.
So when we
Yes.
breathe it in, we take on the nature of air. Air doesn't allow us to hold on to our physical tension.
Yep.
Air doesn't allow us to hold on to our mental tension.
Yep.
And it allows us to go back to that place of centeredness before we got blocked up, and we get to enjoy the God-given right for our own, the peace that we can give ourselves, the power, the contentment, dare I say, the love.
Absolutely. 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 What do you think? Why do you think men stay like silent when it comes down to mental health? You think it's fear, or do you think it's like the minute that they speak, they get humiliated and degraded? What's your personal opinion about that?
Hang on, I don't know what that is. One second. If you've got the Siri in the background, but no. Important point, because there is a time and a place to go. You know what? We're just going to suck it up and keep going.
Yes. Yeah.
There is a time and a place for that, and you know what? It feels good to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find
Yeah.
out where our potential is.
Absolutely.
Um, but what I sort of say to the guys is, um, if you want to go to war with somebody, part of the tactics is you find out the enemy's center of gravity. Okay. The thing that affects them the most, if you can attack that and off center them, then you can sort of lead them anywhere you want to go. And like in Afghanistan, we used to attack the enemy's sleep because we knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
now when I get back to, the civilian Western world, and this is just an observation that I ask people to consider, that our center of gravity as humans is our sense of self-worth.
Right.
Okay. And people's self-worth is often attached to how people see them. So if I have to be seen as always the strong one, if I have to be seen as perfect, if I want love so much, I need to control someone else's point of view, or if I'm feeling inadequate, there's there's this reluctance to be the one that lets the team down. Like there is a bit of a thing where if I ask for help, that means I'm weak. If I display weakness, that means I'm weak. And if I'm weak, I'll let the team down. And somewhere inside of us, we think we'll get kicked off the team, or in tribal times, we'll get kicked out of the tribe.
Right.
You know, because if I've dropped my guard for a second and someone comes in over the gate and harms people, then that's my responsibility. That happened on my watch. So I believe we do have an appropriate amount of ancient wiring inside of us. So for us to go, no, we have to stay on guard. We have to stay on point. We can't display weakness. But we've overlaid that ancient wiring into a location that it's not necessarily warranted. Um, and for guys who struggle with vulnerability, because that can be a bit of a stretch,
Absolutely.
the shallow end of vulnerability for some is just practice being gentle.
Sure.
Okay. Just practice being humble. Practice being honest. Practice, speaking up a little. These little practices get you to the point where you can go, actually, here's what's really there for me.
Mhm.
And when you speak that, and you said this earlier,
Mhm.
consider that the things that you don't want to talk about, that you shared quite openly, there's people out there, and and I've done it, you've done it, where if there's something that needs to be addressed, we just like to stay busy. We like to sort of pour dopamine over dysfunction,
Yeah.
get me by today.
Mhm.
Um, if we can say, give that a number, and you say at least 1 million, well, imagine if you could be the one to break their isolation. Because right now, all those busy people that are hurting, they're feeling a little bit alone. There's words they
Yeah.
want to speak, but they can't.
Yeah.
And what I've observed is those unspoken words become like rocks around your heart.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it's you just want to feel things, but it hurts. I used to be really good at pouring alcohol over these rocks around my heart,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And if you can be the one, especially us men, we don't mind talking, but we need to see someone in a position of strength who's gone through what we've through, speaking what was genuinely there for them. Because then jaws start popping open like this, right? And
Right.
then I hear guys saying, fuck, I thought I was the only one. You know, that's the moment where the healing begins.
Sure.
That breaking of the isolation. So I ask men, whatever you're up against, and it could be a range of different mental, health things. It could be physical.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Um, this pain goes on for a duration or an intensity where it transforms into loneliness. There's a word you want to speak, but you can't, and you're just waiting for somebody else to say those words. So, for those guys who have trouble speaking up, ask this golden question of yourself. how many other people are up against what you're up against? And then give that a number. And then stack those people to your left and to your right. So, Darrell, you got 500,000 to your left,
Hmm.
500,000 to your right. And they're looking in and they're going, Darrell, if you can make a way forward for you, you can make a way forward for us.
Absolutely. That's
And,
right.
you know, Darrell, this is where when you in our own journeys, if it's just us, we can go, oh, I'm not making any progress. I only made an inch of progress today. But if you're connected to a million people, you've made a million inches of progress.
Yeah,
See the shift there?
absolutely.
Because you've got all these people, and a lot of them you possibly haven't even met yet.
Sure.
There's possibly people that won't turn up until maybe your 100th podcast, right? And I'm just using that as an example, right?
Sure.
That are
Sure.
going to go, you know what, we're so glad that back in, February 2026, you chose to move forward and you can speak the words that break the, you know, isolation, the rocks around my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the Tim Thomas that was 10, 20 years ago. All right. Now, I know, like, hey, this most of these conversations that we can have can be very uncomfortable because sometimes you don't want to look back on it because it's a suffrage of what you had to deal with. But I really wanted to ask you this, like that Tim Thomas that 10, 20 years ago, and before Breathwork and all of that stuff that came into existence with you versus the Tim Thomas today that I'm looking at right now. What would you say your confidence level is at right now?
Compared to me 20 years ago?
Yes. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. My confidence would probably be about the same, but
Yep.
my empathy for others has gone to a whole new level.
That right there. That. I think that's important. I think that is very important because we can sit here at any time of the day and nothing would actually improve or will feel like that it's nothing. But the minute that we go and we do something for someone, help someone, or genuinely just be that right person, that's where everything just shifts and it just makes all the difference in the world. That makes all the difference in the world. And I'm telling you, I think that's the greatest of how we can bring awareness to a lot of things. Because I say it all the time on my podcast. I say, look, we can sit here, we can talk about the big stuff, but let's talk about the smaller stuff because the smaller stuff can get bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger. So if we can at least get down to the root of the problem, which is the smaller stuff, if we can get to that and we can just start bringing that up, boom, we already there. We already bringing awareness to something. And look like to me, breath work was the solution for you. So it's like a win-win, right? That's just the name
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
I like,
perfect
yeah. I like how you're asking the questions that get underneath the seen problem and get into the unseen.
because yeah, and look, as like I said, it could get uncomfortable because it's a lot of things that we don't get to talk about. We don't get to actually sit down on somebody's podcast and talk about it, or we have to do it by ourselves. And like you said, sometimes, hey, we just got to suck it up and move it up and just say, hey, we put our big boy pants and do it.
Well, Darrell, I put it to you that, right now we're modeling a certain behavior
Yeah.
that for anyone listening, they are given permission to go, oh, there's two guys actually speaking what's really there for them. And guess what? The sky's not falling on their head.
No,
You know,
I agree.
nothing bad is actually happening. These guys are showing something that's particularly possible.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I've observed, especially around the powerful masculine, if you can get powerful masculine energies in the room to be authentic, and there's a lot of power that is masquerading as powerful, but it's insecure.
Yeah.
Okay. And it generally lacks any form of humility, gentleness, vulnerability, honesty. Um, but what I'm trying to dial into here is,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm feeling is going on, and what I ask the listeners to be present to
Mm-hmm.
is when authentic men get together, people in that space get a chance to drop their own armor,
Yeah.
feel safe,
Yeah.
and it's like their own internal compass can turn on because they're not having to scan the perimeter for threat. And this is coming from a guy who's got, I got 6 pages of weapons I'm qualified in, you know, but the most powerful thing I own, what I've experienced time and time again, is not a weapon, it's an authentic conversation.
Right.
One
Right.
authentic conversation can literally tilt the axis of the planet for someone who's really listening to that and can drop into that space of, they're not trying to manipulate, control the outcome here. They're just sharing that space. And it's sort of like all the crap falls off their inner compass and they
Mm-hmm.
know what they're supposed to do next.
Yeah. And that's a real example of, I would say, leadership, so to speak. I think that's a real prime example of how you speak into that you show true leadership, and how you are willing to speak on how the struggles for not only you, not only for me, but for men in general is real. It is real for sure. And that, I think, is, it's more important to look at the ability really to actually dig into that deep root of how we can be able to pull the armor down and speak on these issues, because this is a real honest conversation. This is by far one of the realest conversations that I've ever come across when it comes down to the struggles and insecurity and things like that. Because,
And Darrell, question,
yeah,
how much has this conversation cost us?
honestly, it really don't have to cost us anything. Being just real about that, I think what really matters is that we put something into action. We put it into action. If we put more into these conversations, if we can reach out to people in a way that the conversations will cost us something, then yeah, it's genuine,
Well,
real.
I guess what I'm pointing to is imagine what it would cost if people didn't have these conversations.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Suicides, man, it could be
well,
suicides, it could be depressions, and like you said, like you was, addicted to drugs and stuff, like painkillers and stuff like that. That's what it costs right there.
and just consider for those people listening and like there's people listening going whatever, but then there's people listening going, actually, I'm getting the heart space that's opening up here.
Mm-hmm.
Consider that it would cost you nothing to sh hold space, have conversations with other men,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they and again, it costs you nothing, but not having those conversations can come at a very high cost.
Right.
And so, you know, when I first started working in the veteran space,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I focused on. I started these men's groups where a man would share his story openly, honestly, authentically,
Yeah.
and all these jaws would pop open and they'd say, "Fuck, I thought I was the only one," you
Hmm.
know, and those that broken isolation was the first step, and then what we experienced was when you've been isolated for a period of time because you've often tried to be so busy pouring dopamine over, dysfunction, you're in a state of fatigue. So,
Right.
before you rush to the healer's office, let's get you out of fatigue. Let's start improving your sleep. And then you're in a much better place to, receive the positive seeds and grow them once the soil is enriched. I kind of keep saying, sleep is a soil from which everything grows. But unfortunately, the world we live in is very visual. You've got to look a certain way. You've got to have a certain amount of stuff. You've got to have this, right? And it's a bit like, there's a tree growing, and the tree saying, "Hey, I don't have the fruit in my life that I want."
Right.
There's 1,000 people saying, "Look, I'll sell you this, I'll sell you that, I'll give you all this stuff." But if someone comes along that understands how the tree functions, they'll go into the unseen. They'll go into the soil. They'll improve the soil quality. Or if I'm talking to my corporate clients, I'll say, look, performance is like a pyramid. Top of the pyramid, that's you achieving what you want in the outside world. Hitting targets, making products, making bank. Everyone sees it. Everyone cheers you on for it. You might
Yeah.
even get a sense of self-worth for it.
True.
But the bottom of the pyramid is your rest, recovery, and healing art forms.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, those people that can extend the bottom of their pyramid, they're the ones that have they have a longevity in what they're
Right.
doing. So
Right.
there's you going forward, and your rest, recovery, and healing is really big, wide, and supportive. And then there's you going forward, and you're not resting, you're not recovering, you're not healing. And this is where the hustle, grind, push hard, because life is
Yes.
hard when you're not sleeping. And then people
Yes.
start going, well, I must be doing something right here because everything's hurting, you
Yeah.
know, and, 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 and that's how they get you.
Yeah.
When you're fatigued, you just want to feel better straight away. And, here's a pill, here's a drink, here's a this, here's a that. Um, but I kind of like, when I'm coaching contact sports teams, they get this idea. Think of your performance pyramid. And like, I've got a triangle there. When two triangles collide and one's bigger than the other one, which one's going to win? You know,
Yeah. That's it.
Obviously the bigger one, right?
Exactly.
So consider the bottom of the pyramid, your rest, recovery, and healing. If you're going up against somebody and they know how to rest properly, they know how to recover, they know how to heal, and they're going up against somebody who isn't doing those things, what's the impact going to be? They are going to freaking destroy you, every time. It's just physics, right?
Sure.
And I sometimes have to sort of swing the pendulum into the negative side of experience for people to go, oh, this boring, thing that no one gives me any acknowledgements for, that no one encourages me to do, that I don't seem to get the sense of worth getting a good night's sleep than achieving things in the outside world. I sort of have to swing it into the negative for them to go, oh, actually, it's super important.
Very, very. I had that struggle today. Like me working at FedEx, it's hard for me to, get to bed because my best is getting 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And 99% of the time I don't hit that goal because of, different things. And today was the real struggle. I get up early, early in the morning in my time, and I have to be at work at an early time, anywhere between 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the struggle of me just trying to get there is 10 times more harder than just actually staying home and sleeping in. But then I could stay home, I could sleep in, and then I could get up if I don't gotta work. Boom, I'm still feeling fatigued, or I'm still feeling a little sluggish, a little tired. I would say, okay, this is just the aftermath of all the crap that I went through at work and stuff like that. And, now genuine rest has been very important to me because if I don't get that genuine rest, man, it's a disaster from the time I get up to the time it's time for me to go to bed. It's just a disaster. So you're exactly right on when we're talking about resting and restoring. It's key. It is so important. Very
And no
important.
one's going to do that for you, Darrell. So what
No,
you've discovered is I credit you for that, because no one does this for you.
no.
Most everyone else would probably prefer it if you're in a state of fatigue, because you're not thinking for yourself. And when you're not thinking, I can sort of push you around the place because you don't
Yeah,
actually see the pattern.
absolutely.
Um, and unfortunately, when people actually, like me, when I wasn't sleeping and I tell a doctor I couldn't sleep,
Yeah.
I got dosed up to the eyeballs and pills, and that's 6 years of my life I'm not getting back. I didn't know breath work was something that could actually help you sleep better, bring healing to every cell in your body, anti-inflammation, clear out your head, help your REM sleep better, help you wake up feeling better, help you wake up feeling with less pain, because chronic injury is something I, deal with quite regularly. Um, but it wasn't until I was in the hurt locker, very vulnerable, looking for healing,
Yeah.
that I realized, Darrell, that we're not in an age of information.
Yeah.
Information's super powerful. Once you have it, that gives you power. But we're in an age of marketing. First six
Yeah.
pages of Google, marketers, right? And so marketers, God bless them, they know how to speak the words you're longing to hear. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I wanted. Shut up and take my money, right? But
Yes. Yes.
but they promise, they give you a small taste of the piece of power you're looking for, but then years go by, repeat sales, and the vulnerable person ends up blaming themselves.
Yeah.
And the amount of times, Darrell, I've had so many people saying, "Look, I tried to get help. The help didn't help. In fact, it made it worse."
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and and so, what? There's good news and bad news in the healing journey. The good news, I'll start with: when you find the right healer, healing takes far less time than you think you need.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm talking like a couple of weeks even done right. And there's
Okay.
some things that are almost instantaneous, considering that healing to a healer isn't the symptoms, it's the blockage in you. And they get really good at removing those blockages. So you just naturally go back to your natural state, right?
Yeah.
And there's some
Yeah.
healers that can remove those blockages a whole lot quicker, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but the bad news is not all healers are born equal.
Nope.
Most of them are marketers. They know
Mhm.
how to promise.
They do.
Um, So the bad news is finding the right healer is what's going to take you most of your time. Not actually the healing, it's the seeking the right healer. So that's why when I was coming out of that very vulnerable position, I didn't want to just talk about stuff. I wanted to give people access, because what a healer will do, they know they're just human. Their energy's not enough for two people.
Right.
But what they've got is a connection to something super powerful. And it might have taken them 10 years to get that connection, but they can give it to you in far, far less time. And once you've had that connection to that powerful thing, you've got it. You've got it for life. The healer just stands back and go, I'm enjoying watching the show. I am now redundant. And
Absolutely.
that is something you will never have a marketer say.
Yeah. I think I've watched too much TV not to see that. So so I know exactly what you're saying on that behalf. I know exactly what you're saying. I won't keep you, but I just want to ask you a couple more real quick before we get out of here. So the first question I wanted to ask you, like, with breath work and you're obviously looking great. Like you're on top of it. So how much contribution to food, healthy eating has helped with breath work?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because if you're sleeping poorly,
Hmm.
your levels of ghrelin, which is a hormone,
Right.
is greatly increased. So poor sleep increases ghrelin, which then
Hmm.
has you eating much, much more than you need to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then a good night's sleep increases leptin, which makes you feel satisfied, satiated. Okay, so you can see that diet. So do you remember how, you know, I've got to keep busy so I don't feel any pain?
Yes.
I've got
Yes.
to keep pouring dopamine over it. It could be a run, it could be, busy at work, or it could be a bucket of ice cream. And again, there ain't nothing wrong with working hard. There's nothing wrong with
No.
ice cream or a good car. But if I'm using that to try and to use an external thing to create internal balance, um, that's where the problem is.
Yep.
So often we're not eating for, because we're hungry. We're eating because we could be bored. We there's something we don't want to sit with. Um, and you'd be surprised how little your body needs for nourishment
Yeah.
and how much you use food for entertainment.
Self pleasure too.
Food has
Yeah.
become largely entertainment in our
Yeah.
Western world, and they love that, And again, the economy of dysfunction runs on you being fatigued. Okay, so when you're fatigued and your ghrelin levels are high, you eat so much more than you need to because you're not just eating because you've got this thing in your system that says I've got to eat more. You're eating because you're feeling, well, there's something I don't want to feel, something I want to avoid. So that me shoving extra energy in my mouth helps me sort of stay away from that little area I don't want to, sense or feel. So without um, without sort of sounding like a one-liner or just get a good night's sleep,
Right.
breath work, breath work having you increase your leptin levels
Hmm.
because you're sleeping well, you
Yeah.
automatically eat less. And if I could be so bold,
Sure.
it's a really good idea to fast for a short period every week.
I agree. 100%. I agree. To some
And
form,
if
yes, you have to do that.
if nothing else, it's kind of like for me, it's like pulling the energetic tide out,
Hmm.
and at low tide, you can see where all the spiky bits are.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the uncomfortable parts of me that I don't want to sit with get
Yeah.
revealed, like all the things that piss me off, essentially.
Yeah.
And if I get pissed off, then I'll eat more, right? But when I'm not eating, I'll feel something and I'll automatically go to the fridge. I'm like, no, I'm not eating today. That was because negative energy takes up a lot of energy, but you don't see it if you're, not aware of it.
Mhm.
And so when I'm in a low energy state, when I'm fasting, all those um, poor energetic investments show up. And I can sort of go, okay, I see you now. And I can, I've usually found every time I sit with something I'm uncomfortable with, there's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
It's like the last thing. What's a really good example of this? Okay, so this morning, I'll give you a real-time example. This
Sure.
morning, there was someone I knew who had a turn of bad luck. They were in hospital. I lent them some money. I set up a bunch of other structures for them to get help. Um, but then, as time went on, they became negative, and
Yeah, man.
and I don't and completely shunned me. If I'd send
Yep.
any notes, they'd respond, very negatively. And I don't think about it all the time, but this morning it just popped up in me, right? I'm like, and I automatically said, "Oh, I'm going to go do something else." I'm like, "No, no, sit with this." And I sat with this discomfort of this particular person, and I was thinking, "Oh, maybe I should write them a note. Maybe I should do that." And then it's like, "No, Tim, you don't actually have to do anything. What you need to do is see that it's not this other person. It's a part of you blocking your divine connection." And
Right.
and that other person, I call it God. is
Mhm.
using that other person to knock on your door. Look, I'm standing here and I got all the love and acceptance you could ever need, but you've slammed the door in my face and you're blaming the other person. I was hanging on to that negativity. And when I actually see it and I'm like, oh, I am so sorry that you've been patiently waiting there with love. When I actually open that door, I can feel like part of my body relaxing. And I feel, and I call it God, call it spirit, whatever,
Yeah,
that divine love rushing in where I'd otherwise been blocking it.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, God simply sent me that person to highlight an area where I was slamming the door in the face of God's love. I mean, people do what they do, right, wrong, in between, but it's me that was keeping that door shut against my own healing journey. And
Hmm.
then as I let that through, all these other really cool things happened. And I won't go into it, but what I'm trying to say here is the very place you don't want to go, that's the spirit kind of knocking on the door. A
Yeah.
wise person once said, "Lo, I stand at the door knocking." And what that looks like in real life is when I'm trying to get into my, good meditation state, and there's some mofo that pissed me off last week, and he was wrong and I was right, and screw that guy. And that's the spirit going, you know what? You want to get into the divine, you have to get rid of your blockages. And this is
Yeah.
one here. This is what I'm pressing on. It's like the doctor feeling all over you. Oh, don't touch there. That hurts. And the doctor's like, well, I've got to press there to find out where you're hurting so we can heal it. And that's sort
Exactly.
of my experience of the spirit speaking, is all the things that kind of piss you off that you actually go, no, we need healing here. We've got to let the spirit in.
Yeah, you're digging into the roots. That's exactly what that is. You're just digging into the roots because it may not be related to what you said, and it was kind of funny because me and my brother had that same kind of like not exact experience, like almost 20 years ago. Like there was a fella because we had just gotten off work. There was a fella that was sitting on the corner, and we're walking to the car, and he was like, I'm struggling. I'm trying to get to the bus station. I just need a way to get there. So my brother was like, okay, we'll take you to the bus station. And so I gave him a little money to, help him out or whatever. And he was like, man, I appreciate y'all and stuff like that. Can you come around and give us a prayer real quick? So we prayed for him and sent him on his way. And then I want to say maybe about almost a year, maybe about 6 months later, me and my brothers in Aldi saw that same brother that we was helping with the gas station to go. My brother goes up, he says, hey man, you don't remember us, man? We helped you if they go into the bus station, stuff like that. He looked at us, he was like, nah, I don't remember y'all. Do you not know the the anger and the like really what we just did for you 6 months ago, and now you just took it. I mean, he had money, he was good shopping, he was doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, dang, like, really, bro? Like now with like nothing to you no more. Like in reality, you had to remember, man, because we didn't change that much from 6 months. So yeah, that was just a story that when you said
Yeah.
that, man, that kind of brought back like that memory ordeal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like why that happened? So it's
No,
that.
no, no. Look, and let me just acknowledge you, for helping someone out when they needed it.
Yeah,
Okay. But let me just flip this a little
sure,
bit.
absolutely.
Okay. So let's say, you know, there's a God, right? I happen to believe there is one, right?
Okay, good.
And
You got you.
yep, and and he had that sort of conversation with you. So do you remember how, I gave you life, health, I blessed you with this and that, and I've got this world where
Yeah,
you're breathing oxygen, green
yeah, man.
sky, blue skies, green trees, all the wondrousness of nature.
Yeah.
Do you remember me doing that? Oh, no, man, I'm so pissed off at this guy who didn't give me my, didn't acknowledge me. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole lot of unacknowledged behavior going
Oh
on.
man.
You, like,
Dude. I know exactly what you mean, man. That
How
is
many
a like
times?
how many? Like it's just insane how the world can be and how people can be like when you don't have nothing and how people can be when they do have something and they act like they don't even know who you are. It's dude, that's a struggle in itself. I struggle with that.
Well, let's internalize that because that didn't happen to you by any accident. That didn't stand out
No,
to you by
it
any
didn't.
accident. So
No.
how many times have we cried out to the maker going, "Hey, I really need you in the bottom of my pit." Then when we're doing well, he might, "Hey, do you remember me?" "Oh, no, no, I'm fine. I'm doing my own thing now." That's the flip I'm trying to have you
Sounds
see here.
familiar? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
That sounds very familiar. Like I could get that. That's
like God didn't send you that experience for no reason. He might have been highlighting some part of you that may not have been displaying as much gratitude for the blessed life that you have. And I'm just saying that straight.
and dude, I've always been the genuine one to go and like if somebody was struggling and needed help or something like that. I've always been the one to lend and give and stuff like that. I've always been that guy. But when people start, taking advantage of me, that's where I have to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and be like, okay, now there has to be boundaries, so to speak. There has to be a set level of how you do this, how I want to do this. And that right there had taught me a big lesson in how, lending and giving, there could be repercussions or there could be good rewards with it. I've always been about the good rewards and to helping people, just like you. Always like that. Always been like that. And for me to actually have to have a boundary, it doesn't necessarily bother me, but it
Hmm.
takes the point of, damn, now why? Why did it have to happen this way?
No,
That's
and I
the
get that.
worst.
I get that, Darrell, and I'm all about boundaries. That's why I became a soldier. Beautiful things can't grow
Yeah,
without boundaries, right?
absolutely.
I guess let me just internalize this story for myself. And I was
Sure.
just so I noticed if you're actually benefiting or improving someone's life,
Mm-hmm.
it can be such a dramatic shift that they don't see it themselves. It's like, oh, I was never in the dark. I was always in the light,
Yeah.
And I noticed how I can help, tangibly 100 people, and maybe one to two of them might turn around and go, oh, actually, thank you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I used to get really upset about that. But then I'm realizing how many times, and this is just again a conversation with God, how many times has
Absolutely.
God helped me? And I just thought it was normal. And I didn't even think to thank him for that,
Absolutely.
And it was like God was saying, using my life to highlight the blind spots where I hadn't seen God's blessings, God's generousness, God's impact, God's, turning the light on in my life.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, here I am beating up these people in my mind for not acting like they should. Well, how many times has God been generous with me
Mm-hmm.
and improved my life and blessed my life? And I haven't sort of gone, you know what? Thank you. And it was just a humbling moment
Mm-hmm.
uh, to realize the behavior that made me upset outside of me, I could have been displaying with my heavenly Father. That's what I was
Absolutely.
trying to communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and being real about that, a lot of people don't even thank God for a lot of the blessings and things like that. And I can understand that people don't believe in God and stuff like that, but there should always be a moment, there always should be a moment to either thank a spirit or thank God or something.
Just gratitude.
Yeah, just
Gratitude.
showing some gratitude for it.
Yep.
I agree totally, wholeheartedly. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and that's important. I really think that's important. You're on the right track, man. That I can appreciate that, man. You're really on it, man. You're on it. But yeah, before we get out of here, man, I just want to ask one more question. What would you say right now
Mhm.
to the fans listening right now, and the audience that are listening? What would you say to them if they was all sitting in this circle having this conversation? Like if you was in a group with your guys or your
Sure.
corporate
Yeah. Yeah.
people, what would you say?
Yeah. If you can control your breath, you can control everything.
Bingo. I agree. I agree. I think that's important too. That's why
And
breath work is
and
in existence.
accessing your own power, what people realize it's not a set of lungs we have, Darrell. It's a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves.
Yes.
And when you want to elicit a certain state of being, you can use your breath. Whether it's working out in the gym, whether it's studying for exams, whether it's an
Yeah.
afternoon pickup better than coffee, where it's getting to sleep, getting out of bed,
Mhm. Yeah.
your breath has a certain state or connecting to another human.
Yeah.
Um, and because this is free and it's unseen, nobody's going to do this for you.
No. You're absolutely right.
People like me and Darrell will try and wave the flag. And for those people listening, there's probably people there. They're going, you know what? Yeah, well, good story, whatever. But then there's some people that are like, actually, there's something here that I want to have in my life because I can see that it's going to benefit me and everyone around me.
Absolutely.
So I really encourage people to not go through life unaware of what you've got underneath your own rib cage. It's not outside of you, it's inside of you. And
Absolutely.
and the vision I have for all the people I work with is when they leave the house, they're leaving the house in a state of completion. They've given themselves the peace, the power, the sense of joy, the sense of connection more than any coffee, car,
Yeah.
relationship, house, lifestyle can give you. It's nothing wrong with having those things,
Sure.
but we're the ones that give it to ourselves. And we can we can leave a very different legacy once we've laid hold of our sovereign power than if we've just been that, you know, rat race of something outside of me is going to give me value. Something outside of me is going to make me be lovable. Something outside of me is going to give me, peace, power, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it, man. I love it. That's real. That is real. We're gonna get on out of here, man. You got any credentials, social medias that you want to share?
Sure. Well, I mean, I normally work with, corporate leaders that want to use sleep as a metric of success.
Mhm.
So I'll stick my LinkedIn there. But if for those people that are listening, go, you know what, I want a good night's sleep tonight. I'm going to gift you 28 days of quality sleep for free. Just take out your phones, put in 3 words, breathwork in bed. 3 words, breathwork in bed. All you have to do is tell it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, and we take care of the rest. Tired people don't want 1,000 things to remember. They just want to say, here's what I want. Sleep at this time, wake at this time. We will take care of the rest with notifications that will turn your bed into a cloud. Literally tonight. And Darrell, I recommend you try this. And I'd love to
Woohoo.
circle up a bit later on. In fact, I challenge you, Darrell. Will you take this on for 28 days, my man?
Man, I think I'd like to do that, man. I think I would, man. I really think I would.
Okay.
I gotta check that out.
All right.
Yeah, I gotta check
Okay.
that out.
Well, we won't, leave this as a one-off.
Sure.
Let's keep the conversation going. But yeah, so people that want a good night's sleep tonight, breathwork in bed, in your app store, and that will give you an incredibly improved sleep this very night.
Woohoo. All right. That's Tim Thomas, y'all. This is this was an honor, man. It really was. It was an honor talking with you, man. I'm gonna have to get you on for part two, man. I'm
In
gonna
28
have to-
days.
there you go. There you go. 28 days. That'd be even better, man. We got to get you back on here, man. I appreciate the conversation. It was wonderful. Appreciate you.